Well, hello, Kristin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. Thanks so much for having me, Bridget.
Oh, good. It's such a joy to speak with our certification students and just hear, your journey and how things have really transpired and unfolded. So, do you want to share a little bit about your own journey into tarot and to where you are now?
Yeah. Okay. So just start with my whole life I've been clairaudient, but I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't have the language to use those words about it until I had a mediumship reading with one of my friends who had just gone through mediumship training, which I also didn't know was a thing. And we had this just really amazing conversation about really all the things I had experienced in my life that I just didn't know were anything more than just like regular things. So I just started by just like dipping my toes into podcasts about spiritual journeys and started asking for signs for like, well, what is it that I need to be doing? Where should I be focusing? And I think my whole life I had been searching for something more. I'd spent 20 years in corporate marketing. So I was very familiar with like the just like get up, go to work, collect your paycheck, and but I just like knew that it was missing something for me. And so when I started to kind of dabble into the spiritual world, the same time I had also started my process for getting certified as a health and life coach. So I was working full time, I was going into health coaching, and then I was starting to really discover my own. And so along the way, I had started this process with my guides where I would say, show me something 3 times and then I'll like pay attention to it. And cards was something that kept coming up here and there. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to buy a deck of cards. And I was really excited because it's something that had always intrigued me, but it was one of those things that always felt like, oh, I'm not like special enough to read cards, right? Like I had a lot of those like beliefs around like the type of people who read cards, and I wasn't. Like I work in corporate marketing. Like I don't read tarot cards. So eventually I bought actually the Everyday Tarot deck and the Intuitive Tarot book that you wrote and started really kind of diving in, all the while still going after health coaching, still working my full-time job. So I had a lot of stuff going on. But then when the certification process opened for Biddy Tarot, I knew that I wanted to do it because I'm definitely one of those people who, like, if I'm going to do, I'm going to do all of it. I'm not just going to like pick up the card deck. Like, if you're offering a certification, that's what I want to do. But I wasn't sure it was the right time because I had so many things happening. So I'm in the webinar where you are talking about the process, and there's students who are talking about their experience. And I just kind of throw it up to my guides and I say, you know what? I don't know if this is the right time. So if this is a good time for me to take this on, in addition to everything else, send me 3 Queen of Cups cards. Now, my interpretation of asking for that was that I would eventually get like Queen of Cups like in the next 3 tarot readings that I did for myself, right? That was what I had expected. But no, one of the students was talking about how at every module she would pull the same card. And so she proceeds to pull the Queen of Cups 3 times. Like she literally showed it 3 times in the webinar and I couldn't believe it. My jaw like hit the floor and I signed up like immediately. I was like, well, I never received a faster sign or a more clear sign for anything. And so I was on this journey, the tarot. And the more I learned about it, the more I loved about it. And I finished all my coaching classes and I'm building my coaching business. And I'm trying really hard to integrate like health coaching and tarot. And it just wasn't aligning for me. I don't know if anyone else can do it, but I was not able to make it fit. And so I eventually get to the point where I'm in a session with a client. It's a health coaching client. And at this point, I've been building my business for 2 years. So it's been like a long journey. And I just have this overwhelming realization that this is no longer what I want to be doing. I no longer want to do my full-time job. That is getting increasingly more out of alignment. Health coaching is no longer a thing for me. And I'm kind of left with like, oh my God, like now what am I doing? Like, I feel like I'm back to square one again. So I'm like, okay, well, I wanted to go more spiritual. So I'm just gonna do it. So I create a website and I put my tarot stuff up there and I start pulling cards on my Instagram page. And within 3 months of that, I start getting all of these signs that it's finally time for me to leave my job, my full-time. In my own tarot readings, every song that comes on the radio, I mean, I remember laying in bed one time, just like taking a little bit of a rest, and Alexa just turned on by herself and starts playing this song that I've never heard before. But it was all about like, it's time to fly free and you can do it. And
Oh, wow.
like, oh, this is so insane. Yeah. And so now, fast forward again, I'm fully self-employed. I have a tarot business, tarot and coaching, empowerment coaching business, where I help small business owners and professionals manifest their own businesses.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I have so many parallels with your journey as well. And I'm sure many others can relate, kind of being in a corporate role for a long period of time and then feeling that call. And, sometimes we end up taking paths that we think are the right paths, but it kind of doesn't lead anywhere, but actually kind of does lead somewhere because it's almost like a stepping stone, right? So just the very act of doing the certification around health coaching was probably enough for you to start freeing yourself up and seeing that there's a different possibility, even if the health coaching itself wasn't the thing that was going to take you forward. I think what will be interesting though is in the future where health coaching may come back in, because I've certainly found in my own journey, everything spirals. I left behind like a whole corporate career in strategic HR, human resources, and thinking, oh, what am I doing, right? But now I have a team of 15 people and it all just comes back full circle. You don't realize it at the time. So I think it's really inspiring just to hear the different stepping stones and to see where that has led you. How have you found that being like a certified Biddy tarot advisor is helping you and supporting you in your current business and with your clients?
When I look back to how I was reading tarot before I started the certification to what I'm able to provide now is just such a massive change in just how I approach the conversations, what I'm able to actually pull out of the cards. So a lot of times I will still get like messages clairaudiently throughout readings, depending on the energy of the receiver. I found that actually makes a massive difference in the quality of the reading that I'm doing. But I actually don't always need it. Like, cause I can pull out like the symbols and the connections between the cards. And I also think it's really surprising for people to hear, like, I got certified as a tarot reader. And they're like, what do you mean? I didn't know that was possible. And I'm like, it absolutely is possible. So it really has changed, like, the way I think people see me, because I think there's so many misconceptions around tarot still that I come up with every time I go out in the public, which has been fun for me just to kind of spread the message and like be more of that positive influence, where I think people still think of it as this like really dark, mysterious tool. So it really changes people's minds. And then they're like, oh, and it's like you can make a career out of it if it's something that you really want to do.
Yeah, I think that's really big. And actually think, going back to those stepping stones, even having had the corporate career and being part of, normal, traditional, like working life, gives you all that context, the tools, the understanding, so that when you do go out there with something a little bit more woo or spiritual like tarot, which we know is not actually, doesn't have to be like completely out there, but at least you are prepared. You have a language and you can talk about it in a way that would make sense for people who are kind of in a more traditional mindset. How do you go about talking about tarot in a way that feels empowering, uplifting, that might start to change the mindset positively for other people?
I always tell people like to try it for themselves first, but also I always frame it as like, my job is to give you guidance. My job is not to tell you what your future is. I'm not telling futures here. I always say like I believe in your ability to manifest and co-create, not that we all have this specific thing where your future is set in stone. I don't believe that. I believe very much in free will. And usually, as soon as that comes out of the conversation, people relax a lot more because I think the fear is, well, I don't want to know. I don't want to know the future. And I don't know. I don't want to know what happens in 25, 30 years either, right? I hope that whatever it is bigger than I can even imagine, right? So how can I even accept what may be coming my way? So I really come at it from that way. And then people are like, okay. And I'm like, well, what's happening now, today, that you need help with, that feels big, that you need some advice around? And then once they kind of relax and start telling me their story, I will then say, I think this is what we should ask. And I kind of get buy-in from them. And then there's always like, but what happens if I do all of that? Like, what happens then? And then we can pull a card for like 3-6 months out if they're following all of the advice that the cards are giving. And they seem to.
Yeah, beautiful. And then how are you using tarot to help people in their own businesses? What does that look like when you're coaching others?
Yeah, so it's been really fun because I get to blend tarot with the 20 years of marketing that I have, which I love because I was doing it for myself really this entire time. And so I've created a system called the Lunar Navigation Tarot System. And it essentially kind of pinpoints where you are as a business owner in your business, what's currently happening, what might be blocking you from getting to your next level, and what are some things, some options that you can do to help you move forward. That's kind of the mini session that I like to do. And then depending on what comes out, we can work on the other aspects. There's like 3 levels of transformation: mind, body, and spirit. And depending on where the cards want you to focus, because they know your journey, they know what's most important for you to do first, we can kind of figure out where to go from there.
And then, so it's called Lunar Navigation. Is there a bit of the moon cycles in there, or how does the lunar come into it?
So I'm a moon manifestor. I actually have a course called Master Your Cosmic Connection, but I'm a firm believer that manifesting is a big, really like one of the major things that we're doing here in Earth, on Earth School. And so lunar navigation is actually the point of the moon in direct relation to like another star or like the sun. And so when we think about business, we're always looking at where we are, right, as the moon, but then also like how far are our goals and how can we get closer to them, become more in alignment with them. So where are we in relation to them? And so I loved all this symmetry. My business is called Align the Stars Tarot. So it just kind of all came together really naturally.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, tell me a little bit more about how you work with the moon cycles, with manifesting, and then also in the context of business. What does that all look like all together?
Yeah. So what I found when I really started getting into moon manifesting was I loved the 2 weeks on and not officially 2 weeks off, but a little more of like a rest in the 2 weeks. So you weren't like working so hard in like this hustle culture, right? That we really have created for ourselves, especially among business owners and entrepreneurs. It's like really an always on situation. And so starting with the new moon, getting super clear on what it is that you want to create is a big part of it, right? So setting those smaller goals that lead up to the larger goals is part of it that I really love. And bringing in like the spiritual aspect of it into your own business. So creating like just like that really nice atmosphere and that connection to something greater so that you are really like, yes, you're working towards a goal, but you're also co-creating that result with something bigger than yourself. And then, I just love the whole like full moon. I do a lot of full moon forgiveness and like releasing. And it has taught me so much about not worrying about how things come about, but just focusing on like the what. Like, what is it that you want and what can you do to make it happen on your own, knowing that really we can't see all the players involved and all the movements from everyone else. And so we can really leave that over to a higher power and let them we can do some of the work and they can kind of bring us the rest of the way. But also the divine timing aspect of manifesting is so huge. So when I was building my health coaching business, I had given myself several of like, this is the day I'm quitting. This is the date that like I'm doing it, right? And something would always happen. So that last year that I was in corporate, I was like, September is the day. And then 2 women on my team got pregnant. And so I was like, can I abandon my team? And I was managing the team at the time. I was like, I can't leave them shorthanded. It was the toughest part of the year, the busiest part of the year. And then in December was when I had that realization of like, I don't even want to do health coaching right now. This isn't even my path. So if all of that stuff hadn't worked out for me, I don't know that I would have been confident enough to take the leap, because I would have already been really newly in my health coaching business full time. I probably would have toughed it out a little bit longer. So that the aspect of divine timing and really trusting that someone else knows maybe a little bit better than you about your own path and what you're capable of is also a really big part of manifesting the moon. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I used to love the whole idea of SMART goals. You set these very specific goals that have a date on them, and then you push and you strive and you get there and, all the things, right? But I feel so disconnected now from that whole concept, because just as you say, if you push and you force and you strive and you like kind of move towards a set time, it must be this time, I must, in your case, I must quit my job by this time, you would have changed that whole path to something that was actually out of alignment with what you truly desire. And I often think of that, as we set goals, say in our business, or I set them in my own personal life. And now I'm very mindful just to let go of that whole date concept, because it is like just trusting in divine timing. Things will happen exactly when they need to happen. Sometimes and you might get the same kind of thing. Sometimes I get a little whisper that kind of says, hey, I think this is going to probably reveal itself in this month. And I'm like, oh, really? How's that going to work? That's very quick. Oh, okay. But I just have to let it be. So sometimes I can hear that information, but otherwise, yeah, it's this kind of co-creation, isn't it? And being in alignment with the different cycles and the different universal energies. And I think that's what I love about the moon cycles as well. Because sometimes if you're trying to push and like make things grow during the waning moon, like it's just like pushing against a brick wall, right? Yeah. Yes. And equally, sometimes like with projects, we'll have projects for Biddy Tarot that we've played with for years, and we just have to leave them in the ether, because we know that when the timing is right, they will come in and they will manifest so quickly and so powerfully. But we have to be so very patient in just leaving them, just knowing that they're there. And it's hard, if you're an action taker, you're like, why can't I just do this now? Have you had that experience like in your working and business life?
Yeah, I would say even just in this business, this tarot business, I took this leap, right? To say like, okay, I'm going to do tarot. But there was nothing else attached to that. Like, how are you going to do it? Who are you serving? What are your spreads? Like, what do people want from you? That was the craziest part of it. I did have none of that planned out. But when I was starting to get some of these signs, I had a very basic idea that I knew I wanted to bring tarot manifesting together. And that was like my philosophy and my purpose. But like the who part didn't come until actually pretty recently, when I really sat back and said, who is it that comes to me most often? And it's always business owners, small business owners, new entrepreneurs, or people who want to make the leap like I did, that work in a regular 9-to-5, who really want to create a business. And when I made that connection, I was like, you know what? this was even something that was happening when I was health coaching. Like those are the clients I had health coaching, but I was just working with them in a bit of a different way. But the questions would always inevitably come up. So it's like I've been working with the same people for actually like a really long time, and I just hadn't put it together, right? So it was all coming together. It just wasn't like in my conscious awareness at the time.
Yes. And I think sometimes, we're called to do something without really knowing why or where it's going to fit. So I'm just also relating right now. I'm really called to, I'm doing an apprenticeship in sacred cacao ceremony. I'm really called to like these deep ceremonies that we can do. And I don't know why I'm doing it. My husband's like, are you going to become a cacao facilitator? I'm like, I don't know. I just know that I love it. And this is so interesting and fascinating. And who knows where it will take me. And it might just be like for your health coaching, it might just be a stepping stone into something else. But we've got to trust that path, don't we? Just like go, okay, if this thing is really lighting me up and calling me, I just got to go for it. I was actually just reflecting back to in our group coaching sessions that we would have with the certification program. And I remember you jumping on and going, I'm going to do like my first video. And he was so like nervous and like, oh, I don't know if I'll do it. I'm like, come on, you do it. And now, like I just looked at your social media, your Instagram, and it's just filled with videos and posts and so much of you. And I think that's just such a testament to how much that you have just trusted your path and you've said yes to everything along the way. And no doubt it probably scared the living daylights out of you to jump on that first video, but you did it, right? So I wonder if you can speak a little bit to that, just like facing that fear and doing it anyway. How did that show up?
I think it really, so being on social media and coming up front, if I had started with tarot, I don't think I would have been as brave, because that was something I actually had to face when I was health coaching. And it was very much like, well, you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. That was kind of the decision that I had to make. And so I started to kind of conquer those small fears. And it's so funny to look back now at how afraid I was to say, like, I'm a health coach. Like, it's still such like a straight-laced, like regular, profession. And I was terrified. I was terrified to do that because it still felt like out of the norm, right? It still wasn't like you go to work every day. It was like, oh, you're doing something for yourself on your own. People are going to ask you about it, And so I started really building that there. But then, so by the time I got to tarot, it was less of a fear, but it still existed because it was so different than what I was doing. So like health coaching was like the first step out of the box, right? And then coming out as a tarot reader was like, just kidding. This is actually like, this is me. This is like who I am. But what's been so amazing about it is that people who've known me like my whole life, like I have friends and family who I've known since I was a child still hanging around. And they're the ones that were like, oh, that makes so much sense for you. Like, this is perfect. This is actually, yes, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And so the reception from those people have been awesome. Now, the people in my corporate life, they were strange, but like they don't know me, right, as well, because I've been interested in all of this my whole life. It just took me so long to really accept it and like find the resources and get on my path.
Yeah, I remember actually going into my corporate job and resigning. I just remember them looking at me just going, wow, you're going to be a full-time tarot reader. Oh, yeah, good for you. And I'm like walking out of there going, I'm not the crazy one. You're the crazy ones for staying in this system. I'll see you all later. And you just know, that it's the right path for you. I trust that, the right path is available to everyone. And whether that is corporate, traditional, working, or becoming a tarot reader, whatever. Yeah, it feels so empowering when you can really step into that place. Yeah, it's beautiful. I would love to hear about some of what have been some of the highs and then the lows in this business journey? Because I think sometimes, we can see what's on Instagram and we can hear the great stories, but I think where we can learn the most is through those tougher, more challenging times. So maybe start with one high and what's been one low on that whole journey.
Well, so a high has been, I feel like my manifesting has gotten so much better because I'm so much more in alignment with who I am and what my path is supposed to be. So I've been able to manifest things a lot easier than I was before, just like different opportunities, money. It's been really amazing. A low would be just the process of building a business. It's slower than you think it's going to be. So even though things have been like, I got all the signs and, so you have this idea that, oh, it's going to be like a rocket ship. Like I'm going to quit my job and, it's going to be easy peasy because, the universe is on my side. And yes, the universe is definitely on your side, but it still takes time for things to get in alignment. And so in those in between moments, it can be, you are just like racked with self-doubt. And you're just kind of sitting like, oh my God, I made the right choice. And you're just like repeating it to yourself like over and over again. Yeah, I would say that's probably the low. I feel like I've moved a little bit more past that as you kind of get used to it. But that first time you don't get that paycheck, it's kind of, that is kind of like a dagger, right? It's like, yeah, it'd be nice to have that paycheck right now,
Yeah.
But then you come back to like, but I have control over my entire day now. And that is probably my favorite part of being in business for myself, is being able to manage it however my energy comes in, whatever I'm feeling called to do. And obviously I have more of a schedule now, but I still have wiggle room in there if I like need to take the afternoon to do, I don't know, something creative or take a nap. I remember the first day I was like, it was probably the first couple of weeks, and I was really like pushing through. Like the afternoon had come and I realized I hadn't gotten out of my desk all day. I was still very much in that corporate mindset of sit down, go to work, clock off at 5. And then I had that like light bulb moment of, oh, I don't have to do this.
Yes.
I can take a break if I want to and come back later or not come back later. So yeah, there's tons of like light bulbs and lots of highs and lots of lows.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to just catch myself when I would complain, like, oh, that's such a long day, or I feel so overwhelmed. And then I'm like, Bridget, you are your own boss. So if you can't figure this out now, you will never figure it out. So sort it out. And that's when I was like, okay, yeah, I will. I would shape it exactly how I want it. And I will have those ups and downs. And, even coming back to the lunar cycles, right? No doubt you have those periods where it's just like high productivity and working really intensely actually feels really energizing. And then pretty much that full moon comes and then you go, oh, too much. And then you strip it all back. And you're like, right, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And so on. And I think that is like truly the gift of not only working for yourself, but also working in a space that is very connected to who we are. And we need to show up very energetically. It's our energy and the strength of our energy that really matters and that creates success and clients and all of the good things and that creativity. So it actually, for me, it's been more now about how do I manage my energy versus how do I manage my time. And I think for me, that was that big shift out of corporate mindset, which was all about time. How is that sort of showing up for you?
Yeah, I would say it's really interesting that you said that, because I have days where I'm super productive and I can work for 12 hours. Like if I'm on a roll, like I can get it all done in a day. And then like the next day I'm like, oh, I can go for a walk. Like, I don't need to be in my office right now. Like there's nothing that's pressing for me to do. So being able to shift that has been great and have those moments of, yeah, kind of knowing that if your energy is not good and you have to do a reading, like that's going to affect the reading. So you also have to be aware of like, that's your service now, right? So it's not necessarily how much you can get done in a day, which is kind of more corporate. And when working in marketing, it was more like how much revenue can you create, which is all about hustle and more, and how can we make this better, to I'm kind of tired and now I need to meditate for a while so I have enough energy and connection to do this next reading. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big shift, isn't it? A big
Mhm.
mindset shift. What have you got on the horizon? What's coming up for you over the next sort of 6 to 12 months in
Oh
your
gosh.
business and
I don't know that
workspace?
I have a 12-month plan. But
Right, nor do I.
right now I'm really working actually on a lot of money blocks and the energy of money and kind of what that looks like and the financial awakening that you can have. So we talk a lot about like a spiritual awakening, but we don't necessarily talk about having a financial awakening, which is definitely part of manifesting. And I don't know if it was just the timing with my business or what, but it's definitely something that I've been going with and kind of playing with and working with my guides on. So I expect it to produce a course or a masterclass or something coming up in the future. And then did a yoga nidra meditation. So throughout all of that, I also got certified as a yoga teacher. And yoga nidra was actually how I opened up my clairvoyance. So I am a huge proponent. It's like a really healing type of meditation. I created it with the King of Pentacles. So a business owner or entrepreneur can listen to it, start to manifest or create whatever they want with their Sankalpa, and then get some guidance from the King of Pentacles when they're under the meditation. So I just finished that, so that'll come out relatively soon. That's when I wanted to create for a while, so I'm super excited.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, it's so nice. And I think that's what I love most about tarot is it integrates with so many other modalities and that it can really add and enhance, like just add this whole new layer. So something with Yoga Nidra and the King of Pentacles, I love it. And I'm so curious to see what you do with the money mindset, the financial awakening, because I think tarot could really serve that very well and supporting that sort of, mindset shift. That's amazing. And so where can people find out more about you and follow all of these awesome, exciting projects that you have?
Yeah, so the Lunar Navigation is on my website, alignthestarstarot.com. And on Instagram, it's also Align the Stars Tarot. So those are probably the two best places.
Yeah, awesome. And have you got I think you have a couple of offers too for our listeners.
Yeah, so I have the mini session for the Lunar Navigation, which is really designed to help entrepreneurs and small businesses figure out what might be kind of missing or disconnected if they're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, provide some clarity and some really fast next steps. It's just a 15-minute recorded reading. It's $22, so it's a really good way to just kind of test it out if you want to do that. And then the longer session, which is called the Luminary, which is part of the system, goes into, we'll probably do like a bit of a mini session, but get into some more of the details with whatever might be blocked. So there might be money blocks, there could be visibility blocks, whatever is kind of keeping you stuck in your current situation. And then it integrates with coaching, which is great. And a lot of times there is some reprogramming that might need to happen. So I got taken some work in NLP, which I know you also do a lot of NLP. And so to help you really rewire whatever it might be that might be holding you from seeing success in your business, you get some intuitive guidance and then the actual coaching and hands-on change work all in one session.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So we'll pop in the direct links in the show notes. Is there a way to navigate to these from your main website as well?
So they're both on there. So alignthestarstarot.com will give you access to the different tarot readings that you can take a look at.
Fantastic. Oh, it's been so amazing having a chat with you, Kristin. I love your journey. I think it's so inspiring. And I think what you've been able to create and what you've done is like amazing because also like think back, you graduated from the Biddy Tarot certification in October 2022. So we're only like a year out from that and you have built a beautiful business in tarot. And not only are you just like, not, I shouldn't say just doing tarot readings, but not only are you doing tarot readings, but you've developed like such a beautiful system that's aligned with the lunar cycles. It's feeding into manifesting and co-creating with the universe. I just think it's incredible, so powerful. I'm so glad that you are shining this light out into the world in this way. and that, you said yes to that very first video. And it's really just kind of snowballed from there. So thank you so much for sharing your journey today. I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Bridget. I wouldn't be here without you. So it's been awesome. And yeah, just thanks.
Hey, if you loved this video, then make sure you check out this next video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you next time.